Hello, and thanks for watching this short video focused on reporting in QBO. Just be an overview of the key aspects of running reports in QuickBooks Online. I am in my client file from QBOA, and of course, Simple Start and Essentials and Plus, they'll all have a different number of reports. Plus would have the most. Just at a high level, Simple Start doesn't have any AP, those type of reporting, and they don't have a trial balance or a general ledger. Essentials is going to have twice as many reports as Simple Start, and that's because they have accounts payable and a general ledger and a trial balance and a few other reports. And then Plus will have a lot more because of class tracking, location tracking, inventory, item-based reports, if you will. Let's look at just reporting in general. You click on reports in the left-hand panel. The other way to find it, by the way, if you know of a report you're thinking of, like expenses by vendor or something, you can just start typing in the search field and it'll bring up your report. So now there's my expenses by vendor. Now summary reports, you'll be able to customize in a minimal way, whereas detail reports, you'll have more columns to move around and things like that. And I'll show you when we get to a detail report, but it is that easy to find a report just by using the search field. Love that one. But let's click on the reports tab itself, and you have several buckets. I always start with all reports, although if you're an accountant, you can just click on accountant reports, and those are going to be most of your company financial reports, including the trial balance and the general ledger, as well as a nice journal report or your Control Y report, which you can get to from transactions themselves under the More tab. Go to the transaction journal. But you have the transaction detail by account, transaction list by date, so some of those accounts that you might be used to, statement of cash flows, etc. So an account reports is nice to have. You'll also get there under the briefcase, where you can click on account reports and it'll bring you to this same window. And we'll go over management reports in a second. But if I go back to the main starting area, which would be all reports, when you click on reports, you have business overview. This would be akin to company financial and desktop, right? Accounts receivable and payable, pretty obvious what those are for. Payroll, products and inventory. Then you have sales, expense and purchases, and sales tax. Those are the main groupings for all reports. And I already went through account reports, and we're going to drill in on like a P&L, do some customization, and we'll look at a detail report. And then we're going to look at management reports because it is a ability to create a report package. And I also want to show how you can quote unquote memorize reports just by saving the customizations, how you can schedule them to auto send. And I believe that's great just for kind of this overview of reporting. So I'm going to go into business overview, and there's a lot of new reports that have happened over the last several months. We just added a balance sheet detail, by the way, and we got some P&L comparative reports there. And I'm going to start with the profit and loss. Everybody has the newly designed reports. You shouldn't have any clients with the classic report, so there's nothing in QB Labs that you would need to turn on to get this new view. And you'll notice with the color scheme change that we just underwent with QBO, the font has changed and also larger. So we'll look at last quarter, and you can period to compare. I can choose, previous quarter and then maybe year to date, percent change. These things are typical that you would check on or off, and you run the report. Of course, you can change basis right when you're on it, run the report that way. As a tip for accountants, if I was to duplicate the tab, because that's how you get multiple windows, but let me go into the briefcase. The first thing you might want to do in your accountant toolbox is go to report tools and set the default range of what you want your reports to open to and basis. So you might do, this year to date or this year in cash basis if you're getting ready for tax season. So something to consider first, and then the report should reflect that default. I can drill into reports, of course, as well, right? If I'm looking at the cost of goods sold here and it just looks odd when you drill in, it'll bring you to a transaction detail report. Pretty easy to get back to the summary report. There's a little link there, and that'll take me back to the summary, and I shouldn't lose any of my changes or anything like that. Although most will suggest as a best practice, before you drill in on an amount, just duplicate the tab or go to the toolbox, new window, and then drill in so you have the summary report up in one window and the detail up in the other. And I think that a lot of people like that, and they're used to kind of the open window feel with desktop, and it's very similar. So I can go back into my $590.39 cost of goods sold. I can move it to another monitor. It's a little bit on tab browsing. And once you have the report the way you want, now, before I do that, you can print it out, email it. You can go to Excel or PDF. I can edit the header, and not really a date range, but you use management reports for that. And you can add notes, and these notes are only going to show up, at least right now, at the recording of this video, on the last page of the report. But soon it'll show up in every page of the report, and that'll be effective for things like SARS-21. You can collapse and expand as well. Okay, and I can sort. ascending or descending. And then, do I want to display by customers or display by quarters or classes, etc. So I can do a lot of that. And then you can further customize by clicking the Customize tab in the upper right. And here's where I can do some general customization. Notice we have total parity with nomenclature with desktop reporting. So rows and columns, filter, header, footer. It no longer says lists or match or whatever we used to call it. It says filter. And then, here's where you could do some of that. Again, it's a summary report, so you don't have tons that you can customize or filter by, but the distribution account would be your target account. Basically, for this would be the P&L account itself, or I could filter for products and services or multiples of that, and then affect the header footer. You have that as well. And then you have a little baby gear icon, and I'll show you on a detail report where you can do more with columns and moving them around. And then when you're ready and you think, hey, this is a great report, I'm going to use this every quarter or month or whatever, you can click Save Customization. And this is literally going to, quote unquote, memorize your report. Right? We'll look at it quarterly, and you want to add it to a group. And you can choose a group if you want. Call it whatever you have. I'm just going to call it Reports to Send, right? Because I want to show you that next. And then I can even share it with other users. Any all user or a company admin in the file would be able to see this when they go in to reports and go to my custom reports. And this is my memorized report list. And the nice thing you can do is you can edit the group that your reports are in once you save several to a group that your client wants to see, and you can set them to auto send. Maybe they get this weekly on a Friday. And whoever's on the email line will receive it as an attached PDF. All right, I also like the detail-oriented reports because there's just more you can do with columns and stuff. So let's look at that. I'm going to go into sales, and I typically pick on a sales by customer detail. Again, that trick with the search field, you can search for a report. Sometimes it's faster. And this little gear icon, if I show more, right, I can choose what columns I want on the report or off it for here. Maybe I want to know the payment method they used, right? Or maybe there's a SKU or a territory or something like that. And so when you click off it, it's going to add those columns. And it's really easy to take it away as well. And you can click here to reorder the columns, or when you're in the Customize tab and scroll down to rows and columns, change columns, this is where you can move them around. Like maybe I'd have products and service, I have number above transaction type because that's how I want it. So just look for the line and balance. I know you wouldn't do this, but just so you know, you just kind of move it to where you see the line, the blue line go, and that'll move it in place. And then you can check them off here as well. And then remember to save your customizations. Okay, that's going to be really helpful because then you won't have to recreate these reports. And then in the left, typically across the top, you'll either see total by or group by. So look for that as well. And a couple more things to show, and then we'll close off this overview. Look for other videos. I'm going to do one on source versus target and class tracking, right? And then the unapplied cash payment, why it shows up on a P&L, on a cash-based P&L. So look for those on the product video site as well. This little arrow, so it allows me to export to Excel or to a PDF. And then I can just open up the Excel there. I know that's important because you're going to do some tweaking in Excel, I'm sure, on some of these financial statements. The last part of the overview is just going to be management reports. Again, you're going to mostly be doing accountant reports and all reports. My custom reports, you'll be looking in that tab as well because that's your memorized report list. What you frequently run will be listed here. We'll do it for you. What we recommend, you probably won't really even look in there. That's probably more for your clients. But you'll have them just look at my custom reports because you're going to be customizing reports for them, right, and sharing them. But the management reports, your clients won't really touch, but you will. You'll come into the client file, and we give you two templates, expanded company financials or basic company financials. And you can just choose one and build your own templates. This is if you want to build a report package with a logo. And you could choose, your firm logo instead of the client one. Cover title, this is a cover page, table of contents, things like that. And for right now, it's really the workaround for the SARS-21. If you click on the Advanced tab on the first page there, well, the Advanced tab will always be there. This is where you'd put the, no CPA has, etc. And you can have a default header on every report page. This will be a default footer on every report page. And then you have, company name, accountant firm name, report end date. You can also, for the report period, right, you can have some flexibility in what you want to call the date range as well. And then just preliminary pages for like an accountant summary, accountant's letter. Then you choose what reports you want in this package. So I have the P&L, the balance sheet, and you can choose from customized reports that you might have done. I can add my P&L quarterly one, or maybe I want to add an AP aging summary for them, and I can add another report, etc. And they're all going to look at this year, or you can change it to a default quarter for the reports of the package. You have endnotes as well. When you print and preview it, just to show you what it's going to look like, I have my cover page, table of contents, which will build out for you, and then the reports themselves. And then down here, you would see no CPA as, for that. So the management reports, creating a report package, you'll do that. And then hopefully the rest has been helpful. I mean, that's kind of general reporting within QuickBooks Online.